Thanks for having me. And admiring your office, I have to say. It's gorgeous. Not a bad place to come to work. I'm going to sing you the title track from the album, which is a song called Wasteland, Baby. And it's just kind of, I don't know, about our particular age of anxiety, and there's a verse for all sorts of things, be it nuclear winter or political civil violence or just not economic, but environmental collapse, you know. The fear and the fire at the end of the world, it happens each time a boy falls in love with a girl. It happens great, it happens sweet, happily I'm unfazed here too. Wasteland, baby, I'm in love with you. And all the things yet to come are the things that have passed, like the holding of hands, like the breaking of glass, like the bonfire that burned, that all words in the fight fell to. Wasteland, baby, I'm in love with you. And I love too that love soon might end and be known in its aching. It's shown in the shaking lately of my wasteland, baby. Be still my indelible friend, you are unbreaking. Though quaking and though crazy, it's just wasteland, baby. And the day that we'll watch the death of the sun, to the cloud and the cold, and those jeans you'll have on, and you'll gaze unafraid as they sob from the city roofs. Wasteland, baby, I'm in love with you. And I love too that love soon might end and be known in its aching. It's here in the shaking lately of my wasteland, baby. And be still my indelible friend, you are unbreaking. Though quaking and though crazy, it's just wasteland, baby. When the stench from the sea, when the absence of green are the death of all things that are seen or unseen, are an end, but the start of all things that are left to do. Wasteland, baby,
Thank you for the song. We appreciate it. Wasteland, baby. Yeah.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
Yeah, pleasure.
Yeah. And thank you for stopping in today. We know we were just talking backstage. You've got a very busy day of show schedule, and we appreciate you carving out some time to come chat with us here at Google.
It's a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thanks for being here.
I was looking at your tour schedule. We were just talking about the next couple stops, but the remainder of your tour, you've got the Fillmore tonight in Detroit, which is my favorite venue in the city. And then you're on through the rest of the United States, but you've got some huge stops. You've got Bonnaroo, Lollapalooza, both here in the United States and abroad, Glastonbury, Electric Picnic.
Yeah, it should be fun.
You've got 5 nights at the Hammerstein Ballroom in New York to finish the tour.
Yeah.
5 nights at the Palladium in London
Yeah.
before you come home.
Yeah.
How do you balance all of that out, right? How do you balance the wicked tour schedule with bringing energy to the stage every night and spending time meeting with fans during the day, all of that?
You sometimes don't. It's the truth. You kind of, I think the best way is like taking one day at a time, and you kind of wake up and you see what's ahead of you that day, and you deal with it. We just did a 6-day. We just did like a 6-day on the trot. We did kind of a show of some kind. And that, you kind of brace yourself for that. Maybe look after yourself a bit more than you normally would, but you sometimes just don't. And it's a kind of a mind over matter thing,
We used our Google massage room as an impromptu green room, and I was afraid Andrew might fall asleep in the massage chair before he came out here. So
it's good vibes in there, man.
Nice he made it out. Yeah. We had the scents going and everything.
Yeah,
the
had
tea.
the lavender going
nice.
in.
I'd head there after the talk.
Great, loved it. Yeah.
Is there a difference? I assume there is, but a difference between preparing for a show at a place like the Fillmore, which holds 8,000 fans, versus playing at Glastonbury, where there's going to be 100,000 fans? How do you approach the preparation for the difference in crowds?
Yeah, there's something fun about like an intimate room and an intimate kind of theater, or a club even. You do miss clubs, and there's something conversational even about that. Going out there, and if there's going to be 60,000 or 80 to 100,000 people, you just try and psych yourself up for that. A festival, you've no sound check or anything like that, and things can go wrong. So you just go out there and try to bring the energy, and you're trying to just project out a bit more, That's I wish I had more experience of that, because I'm still, the nerves hit you on a gig like that. Yeah.
I was gonna say, do you get nervous still playing every night, or is bigger festivals bring out the nerves?
It can definitely. Bigger festivals will bring out the bring out the you kind of swap the butterflies for the crows, as it were, but even a small one, you kind of get that jitters, and it depends on how you're feeling. If you're feeling in good kind of vocal health, then you're up for it. But there's always that little bit of nerves, which is a good thing.
Well, let's talk about the new album. You guys can see it right here between us, Wasteland, baby, and you performed the title track off of it. So your initial album, 5 years ago, self-titled, was a huge success, to say the least. And then you took some time to prepare this album, and it debuts at #1 in the United States of America on the Billboard chart, which is unbelievable. What's that feel like?
It's a good feeling. Yeah. It was a good feeling.
I would have guessed that. Yeah. If I had to guess good or bad, I would guess good. So thank you for confirming.
It was nice. No, I think it was more so knowing that there was people who were listening to the music, who were up for listening to the music, and holding on to some of that fan base. That's great.
Sure. And it was the first rock album to top the Billboard in like 6 months, 7-8 months, something like that, in the first of 2019. So rock and roll's not dead, is it? It's
in palliative care. It's sitting up in a hospice somewhere, but it's still going.
Keep it alive. We appreciate it. Cool. So I was looking through a couple interviews, and you were talking about this album in particular and the entire feel of the album from start to finish, all of the tracks. And you talked about it having kind of an optimistic, overarching feel to it. But at the same time, there's a lot of different messages within the songs. Is that pretty accurate to say that this is meant to be an optimistic record? Was there a certain theme or feel that you were trying to accomplish, or did all the songs kind of come together individually to create that feel for you?
Yeah, I think there is an optimistic core to it. I think, I kind of view it as like maybe 14 different points of view but they're all, I kind of characterize it as all kind of sitting around the same awful kind of turmoil or awful kind of bonfire of our times, and they're all just screaming into that bonfire. Some of them are hopeful and some of them are despairing, but I think Wasteland Baby, that why I like that song in particular, I think even that sums up, look, even in the worst case scenario, there's still this potential for a squeeze of the hand, and there's still an act of comfort and comfort between two people, and that being something that's real and actual, and reaching for that as something that there is something optimistic there, I suppose. But
sure, and with all the news you read on a daily basis, a lot of it's negative. It's nice that there's a silver lining, right? You're looking for that silver lining and knowing that it's still there, right?
Yeah.
Did your creative process change between your initial album, Hozier, and this album, Wasteland Baby? Was there a difference in how you went about writing the different albums now that you have some experience under your belt for this one versus your very first record that went 6 or 7 times platinum right off the bat? Was there a difference in processes for you for that?
I was on the road for a long time with that album,
sure.
2.5 years, and so I wanted to take some time out. I wanted to approach the writing in a similar way that I had, with a similar ethos, and just taking time with the songs on my own in a kind of quiet space, and avoid the sort of carousel of writing rooms and stuff like that, and co-writes, and I think I was definitely leaning into a bit more having fun with rhythm, and actually just having fun with the voice as well, having fun with the actual the character of the voice. So on some of the songs they're a bit more flippant, sometimes at the risk of sounding glib as well too, but like they're having a bit more fun with writing the songs.
Sure. And you did take 5 years in between albums, and I feel like in today's day and age you've got some bands, some musicians who are releasing a record every year. Did you feel pressure either from the record label, from yourself, from fans to release something sooner?
I didn't. I kind of, of course that pressure's there. I weighed that up against the pressure on myself, self-contained pressure to make sure I was just happy with the work. And as I said, there's ways, I was 2.5 years on the road. I was pretty tired after those 2.5 years. And I was keen, I found it difficult to write on the road, and I was keen not to create something quickly for the sake, something expedient. And there's great opportunities when you get in with this writer or this pop writer, or cut a song with this person. And if it didn't feel right, I wanted to make sure it just felt right. So, sure. Took a bit of time with it, but
I think we're okay with it though, because it turned out brilliantly. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. I hope people.
So another 5 years for the next one, right?
Hopefully not. Actually, hopefully not. Promise that.
One of the songs I love on the album, besides all of them, is Nina Cried Power. So this actually was a song that was released on an EP in, I believe, maybe October, November of 2018. So it actually was, I guess, the lead single, I suppose you could say, and then it made its way onto this album. It's a really great song. It was actually listed by former President Barack Obama on one of his favorite songs of 2018, and a lot of great press around it. And it really kind of calls the spirit, I guess, this kind of homage to musicians who have also been activists, right? Nina Simone, Mavis Staples, who's actually singing on the track, Booker T, which a lot of us know here in Detroit. What's the importance of that song to you, and how do you feel as a writer and a singer of bringing social issues or social kind of narratives into songwriting?
There's a lot of questions in that.
I think I asked you 6 questions. No. I apologize.
Yeah.
But just kept going. They felt good.
No, totally. The song definitely was. I'd hoped would be kind of like a love letter to an era when people were writing. I suppose we joke about rock and roll not being dead. People were writing subversive songs that looked at the world around them with a subversive eye, but also with a hopeful eye, and just sang out about things are the values that oftentimes we all share, and we're approaching and confronting the things that we are not happy with and we're not comfortable with in the world that we live in. So whether that's Woody Guthrie writing a song like Tear the Fascists Down, or Pete Seeger or Bob Dylan or Patti Smith, or, as you say, Billie Holiday, Nina Simone, just people who wrote with I suppose, wrote bravely and wrote about the world that they hope to see. Mavis Staples embodies that entirely. Her work, her catalogue embodies that. She's an incredibly important artist in my eyes. So there's that. So I was hoping to write a kind of just a something that looked towards that. With regards to how important I would feel about writing something that tackles social issues. I don't know. I don't know if I view it as I have a great interest in it, and I think that's more so. The way I view it is that like all songs, just whether you're intending to or not, they all reflect the world that we live in. If I was to write a very happy song about going out dancing and clubbing and stuff like that, it still is a reflection on just the world around us, like any piece of art. But I think what interests me is just writing something that tries to credit and tries to name the good and the bad, and trying to be honest about it, and try to be honest about how you experience the world around you, and sometimes that there is elements of social issues there's elements of political issues there, maybe.
Sure. And the video for that song in particular as well, all of your videos are very powerful. I think the one for Nina Cried Power is especially powerful because it features a lot of activists and a lot of activists that took part in activism around the freedom of Northern Ireland and the fight for freedom and kind of rights in Northern Ireland, which is obviously very close to you. So you've incorporated now that into the visual side of things as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that was, trying to, I suppose, again, in a time where there is a fatigue sets in with regards kind of political movements and political turmoil and things like protest, and fatigue is real, and it's huge. And then there is then the kind of the eye rolling and the vilifying of people who make that their life's work of trying to ameliorate issues or injustices. And it was just trying to point towards at home people who have made real life differences for what life is like and how it is experienced for people certainly in the state of Ireland or indeed in Northern Ireland with the civil rights movement in the 60s, which was influenced and was accelerated by the civil rights movement here as well too, which is, I suppose, where there's a nice link there. But it was nice just to name that and credit that.
It's a fine line to walk, like you said, right? Between oversaturation, but you're also pulling inspiration from what's around you, right? And that's what a lot of songwriters do, and you do it particularly well.
Yeah. And as I say, like there is that risk of kind of oversaturation, but the way I view it, all of these things, everything we have to be thankful for and everything that we enjoy in life is delivered by people making decisions of conscience and acting upon it and exerting pressure against state power, whether that is in Northern Ireland with the civil rights movement or that is more recent kind of social progress in the Republic of Ireland.
You come from a very artsy family, a very talented artist family. Your father was a blues musician. Your mother was a visual artist. In fact, as I understand it, she was the force behind the cover of this album, if you guys can see it, and your other albums as well. Was this really shot underwater?
It was shot underwater. It was, yeah. So
with some fancy visual effects or something like that. You never know these days.
Yeah. No, we did a photo shoot underwater, and then a kind of composition was made from a few shots, and then this itself is actually a painting. Just as the first album was a painting, and that kind of started with when I was unsigned and kind of borrowing. Unsigned, it had no artwork for when you print off a CD on your laptop and kind of hawking it off at gigs.
The boot through your car,
exactly.
Right?
Yeah, I used to steal my mom's, borrow my mom's artwork. She had a series of paintings I really liked, and we just kind of continued on from there. But yeah, that's our painting. Yeah.
Any creative differences with your mom? Did you get any fights over the way the album was portrayed?
We were pretty fortunate, but we have a policy of clear, honest communication. CHD, which is just like, I do not. If you don't like something, you better speak up now, or yeah.
My mom's in the audience too. So
Oh, no way.
if Mom, if I ever release an album, you can absolutely paint the cover of it. So get started on some ideas. Again, I don't want to take away from this album because it just came out and it's doing brilliantly well. But you also talked about having a lot of ideas stored up for the next album. Is there, if this album was meant to be optimistic, do you have an idea of where you'd like to go directionally for the next album? Is it something that you're thinking about already? Do you have songs ready to go already?
I have a lot of ideas of a few songs, a huge amount of work that actually didn't make it onto this record, which I would love to kind of find a way to get that out, just get that out there and let people hear, because it's no good sitting in a folder on a laptop, and yeah. But as for the next album, there's a lot of ideas even rattling around. Even every time I get a few weeks of quiet or a few days of quiet, I find more ideas are coming. So I have to say I'm quite excited, and releasing this album kind of made me very, very hungry for just moving on again. And by the time we release this album, it's been sitting in my pockets for a long time. So
it's new to us, not to you.
Yeah, I'm eager to get going.
So you sang with Mavis Staples on this album, but you don't feature a lot of featured artists. Is there anyone that you'd love to sing with on your next album?
Tons of people.
Everyone.
Tons of people. I would love to do a bit more collaborative stuff. I keep saying this, but my teenage years were kind of formed by Tom Waits' work. He was my treehouse as a kid. He was my kind of hiding place. I fell in love with his work, and the weirder the better, the darker, the more twisted the better. I would love to work with Tom Waits in some capacity, but that would be my dream, number one. But
if you're watching, Tom, let's make it happen. You were recently nominated for an Ivor Novello Award in singing and songwriting, which is a prestigious award for Irish and UK songwriters. I think the ceremony was maybe last week or a week and a half ago, for Nina Cried Power. What's that mean for you to be represented and kind of honored for not just albums that sell well, but also have a deep meaning behind them, and really kind of honor the writing that goes on behind the scenes? Yeah,
it's a good feeling. Not to be sound evasive, but it's a good feeling. Writing for me is it's the first love and it's the first passion, and there's a kind of an excitement that writing, creating some new idea gives you that nothing else can give you. And I was there for church a couple of years ago, and that room is just a who's who of just incredible writers. I think, there's just Elton John is milling around, and then it's just ridiculous. I have to say, it's just ridiculous how who's kind of bopping around those things. So it's a good feeling, and I have to say in that category there was some amazing songwriters. So I was delighted. Yeah.
Well, congratulations. One other thing that I read too about this album is that you sold a lot of albums, obviously, the first week that it was out, and you continue to sell an incredible amount in following weeks. But you've sold a lot of physical records, which I think is awesome. So we've got a vinyl cover right here. I'm a big vinyl addict myself. I think it's really interesting. You in particular, and I think this is attested to you as an artist and your fans, and also the genre of rock music. A lot of folks are leaning more into things like vinyl and cassette, where we're in a very digital streaming age. Do you think there's a shift that's occurring? Do you think about those things when you're writing? Do you think about physical records versus the digital streaming aspect of things? Does that even matter to you, or are you just happy to see records move?
No, it does. It definitely. You would hope that the album that you make works as some cohesive whole. But that was tricky because there was so many songs I couldn't fit on it. But definitely, and I think it's nice because there's something wonderful and tactile about having something physical and having something to hold in your hand. Not only because it's something you can register if needs be, and you can insure as well too, but then there's something tactile. There's a wonderful ritual to sitting down and listening to an album front to back. So it is. It's nice to see that people are kind of engaging a little bit with that. Yeah.
You're in a Google office too. We're very much on the digital side of things.
Of course, I know. I don't mean to be.
Probably going to get fired for this, but I love. There's just something about holding the music. I love going to bookstores versus reading digital books too. So
I hear you.
I feel like you get the spirit of the album in your hands when you're holding on to it.
Totally.
Well, speaking of technology, we ask a lot of the musicians who come through, what is your relationship with technology as it pertains? I guess less so to like music streaming, and more so in terms of like how you stay connected with your fans. Like you're very active on social media. Is that you or is that a team? I guess is my first question.
Yeah. Sometimes. So if it's in some way promotional, if it's me like looking like I'm selling something, I've nothing to do with that. Thank goodness. But if it's something silly or flippant or just like why the hell did he say that? That's probably me. Yeah.
How do you feel about the role of social media and digital and how you interact with your fans? Fans have a lot of a more intimate voice, and so do you in an era like this. What are your feelings around that?
Yeah, it's a fantastic tool. It's an amazing tool, and incredible things have been done with, I suppose, with that tool. And so it's as long as you're, it's. You got to be sensitive, and you got to, you have a direct line to a lot of people there. So I really enjoy it. I got to say, I get a good laugh out of some of my fans.
I was gonna say it could be great, but it can be really bad too.
Oh yeah,
you're not careful with it.
Yeah, totally.
Seen a lot of horror stories of people posting the wrong things.
Oh yeah.
We were talking a little bit about digital streaming too, and I feel like digital streaming. There's, depending on how you look at it, there's goods and bads. But one of the great things is it allows you to release different types of music very quickly. I was recently listening to Spotify's Undercover, and you did a brilliant cover of Destiny's Child, Say My Name. Has anyone heard that yet? Anyone? Oh, it's amazing, yeah. How did you go about kind of moving into that process, and why was that the song that you chose?
It's always a tricky one. When you're asked to do a cover. I think that was for Spotify, which was fun. You can be caught on the hop when you're on the road because it's like, hey, have you got a cover idea? So we had been rehearsing quite a bit with this new group of musicians, the band who are now with me, and we had just started falling into Destiny's Child, the melody from that, just like singing it, and then Alex, my bass player, would just throw a chord progression against it, and we were just kind of just jamming it. We had been jamming it, so it seemed like it was within reach of an idea was within reach, an arrangement was within reach, and it's definitely songs like Destiny Child, some Eve, and like some like 90s kind of 90s and early 2000s.
Speaking my language
R&B,
now.
Yeah, it was being played
absolutely.
a lot on the bus at the time, so we just wanted to honor that. Yeah.
I love it. Any other dream covers you'd put out? If it wasn't Say My Name, what else do you guys cover?
There's so many that you toy with and that you dare not ever go near. I can't for the life of me think of it just yet. But yeah.
Hang outside the tour bus and listen closely. You might hear a few things, right?
Exactly.
What about tons of people have covered Take Me to Church. What's the process for that? I mean, do you love hearing the covers? Do you listen to the covers not only from official artists who are doing it and posting it on Spotify or SoundCloud, things like that, but you also have a lot of fans who are doing it and posting it on YouTube? Not just that song, but many of your songs. What's your thought on that?
Yeah. No. Again, that is like, it's great to see. If it's an artist, then yeah, that's a real honor, I have to say, because I know if you're on the road and you're asked to do a cover, you're only going to pick something that you really, really, really like, and there's something about it that you love. So that's a really nice, that's a real honor. If it's another artist with fans, I have to say, if somebody else takes your work and makes it part of their own, in some part, whether that's a piece of dance or whether they're covering it for, it could be a high school talent show or whatever. It's just nice. The song becomes something that's more than just it becomes something away from you and something a little bit bigger than you. And I'm a firm believer that songs are meant to be sang, and they're meant to be shared, and they're meant to be sang. They're not by musicians either. You know what I mean? Music
in the shower, right?
Yeah, totally. Music is not something that's
where I sing.
Yeah, totally. And it's not just. There's just the thing about what separates a musician from somebody else is nonsense division. Really, I think songs should be sang. They should be sang a lot more and by everybody. So,
awesome.
Yeah, it's a good feeling.
You've mentioned before that jazz and blues have played a lot of influence in kind of the music that you write today and some of the things that have kind of laid a foundation for your musical background. We're in Detroit today, right? What about Motown? Any Motown musicians that you can think of or that have played a particular large role in influencing you in the way that your sound has come out?
Huge amount. And because I was kind of coming to... the first band I was in, we were basically a soul covers band. I was 14 or 15 and joined this group of older kids. They needed a vocalist, and we covered a lot of Stax, and we covered a lot of Motown. But Stevie Wonder, obviously, young Stevie Wonder would be. I know he was kind of. You ever see that documentary, Standing in the Shadows?
Absolutely,
It's
yeah.
absolutely amazing piece of film. But Motown itself, was a big part of kind of just its sound and hearing soul music as a kid for the first time kind of lit a fire under me, or kind of set off a light switch that never kind of went off. So it's great to be back. Sadly, yesterday, which was our day off, the museum was closed, I believe, which was a heartbreaker, but we'll be back.
Motown Records.
Yeah.
You're always welcome to come back. You've mentioned touring, writing, all of these things that I'm sure keep you incredibly busy. You talked about a 2.5-year tour post your first album. Outside of all of that, producing music, writing music, touring, meeting with fans, what else do you like to do? What keeps you busy? Keeps you kind of fresh?
Yeah, my brother chastised me recently. He said I have no hobbies whatsoever, which I sometimes fear is a little bit true. I love, if I'm not kind of resting, I try to be reading. I have to say poetry more recently, just because it's short. It's something that's short form. We don't have a lot of time. Certainly don't have a lot of long concentration. So I was reading a huge amount of Seamus Heaney over the last year, I suppose. Apart from that, if you get a bit of time, if you get a day off to catch up on some TV show or whatever, touring is very, very, it's tricky to kind of squeeze in anything that you can, But reading, if I can, I'll go there.
Tell us a little bit more about life on the road. What's a typical week look like for you while you're out? I know you came from Pittsburgh, you're heading to Grand Rapids next. We talked a little bit about the incredible tour schedule that you have coming up. What do you do to keep your mind fresh? What's a day look like for you while you're out touring?
Yeah, so the last week in particular was a fine example of just, you kind of, the shows are routed, would be routed, long before. So maybe you do three on, 1 day off, then 2 shows, and then 1 day off or whatever. But in the meantime, let's say we did Richmond, Virginia, which was a wonderful room, wonderful audience. In the meantime, you get an opportunity to do Good Morning America in Central Park.
Sure.
So Richmond, Virginia, head straight to a plane, arrive into New York at around 2 a.m. or something like that. 2 hours sleep. Boom, up, Good Morning America, and then head on out to Boston at around noon that day or something like that. And so keep it Boston calling. Following day you're in, where were we yesterday or the day before? Pittsburgh. So it's all kind of going, and then in between that, you might have your little things that are, let's say you're creating some live content for something that might be exclusive for some platform, and you might have to do a bit of mixing on that, a bit of work on that, sorting out a cover, or just the admin of it as well too. So, I've found, having discovered kind of things like mindfulness, it makes life so much easier. But you just got to look after yourself.
Any questions?
My girlfriend and I have 5 years. Coincidentally, we started dating when your first album came out. Something that we shared together.
I can't take credit for that.
Yeah, no. Maybe you can. So we saw you in Austin City Limits this past year. It was like a big trip that we made. Oh, cool. And I was just curious, are there any sort of venues that you really get excited about, and really it's what is your mindset going into one of those? Yeah,
ACL was one of the most enjoyable, the first time I ever played that in particular, because I was sick. We had to cancel my first planned appearance there. Came back a year later because I was got really ill. One of my favorite festival experiences. I got to say, the crowd just blew me away. It's a great love Austin.
Oh yeah,
it's a great town. With venues, I don't know. There's ones that are kind of like real hollowed spaces, and you kind of that can be quite overwhelming. Doing Red Rocks for the first time, is stunning, a stunning place. You just try and psych yourself up for it. I think, I try to get to the point where it doesn't. Try to get in your own head. Try to get to the point where it shouldn't matter what stage you're on. Whether you're in front of 100 people or 100,000 people. Hopefully, you can still deliver the same thing that you want to deliver. And that can be a challenge because it gets in your head sometimes. Yeah. But I don't know. Like there's certain rooms. The Olympia in Paris is a beautiful one. As I said, Red Rocks. These things used to freak me out a lot when I was like first starting off. Like, say doing Bowery Ballroom for the first time in New York City. But I don't know. I don't know if that answers the question.
Yeah, no, it definitely does. Thank you again for coming.
Thank you. No, thank you. Congrats on the 5 years as well.
Hi, I'm curious. You have so many different songs. This might be a hard question. So first one that pops to mind, what is a really special song that means a lot to you? And what is the deeper root behind that meaning? First one that pops to mind.
Yeah. It's really hard to answer that. And some of them obviously are more intimate to me than I would for reasons that I wouldn't divulge. I think I always loved Like Real People Do. I don't know why. I think that always just reminds me of something. And also I think that the kind of imagery in that song is tied a lot to Shane. Like to me, first falling in love with Seamus Heaney's work and his series on bog bodies, which I won't go into, but he used to write like basically mummified remains found in bogs in Ireland and in Central Europe and stuff like that. And his poems used to fascinate me. And then tying that into just my own experiences of first falling in love, etc. That kind of feeling of being exhumed in some way. And then Like Real People Do. And then I don't know, I really like Wasteland Baby. I had a lot of fun writing Almost Sweet Music because it's just names of songs, trying to make up a narrative with song titles. And also they're songs that I fell in love with, and I fell in love too, I have to say. So so that's a tricky one, but hopefully that's some sort of answer.
Thank you. I cannot wait to go re-listen to those now.
So I'm curious, does your OCD ever take over when you're listening to music, whether it's yours or otherwise? We talked about vinyls and things like that. Do you have to have a full floor standing speaker subwoofer setup, or do you headphones? What's your take on that? I'm just curious how you listen to music.
Yeah, it depends. It depends on if I'm listening to my own or if I'm listening to somebody else's. If I am listening, like, my OCD really kicks in when I'm listening to my own, and so like the mixing process can be painful.
Do you obsess about what came out versus how it gets recorded?
You do a little bit, yeah, or you kind of you obsess over minutiae. You know what I mean? That bass needs to be plunkier. That bass needs to be a little bit, tiny bit brighter. And like to anybody else, this is completely. You either got it right or you didn't at that point. You know what I mean? It either conveys what it needs to do, or it doesn't. And so you spend weeks. Can you brighten this? Can you take some of the top end out of this hi-hat, whatever. And then I would be listening to, let's say when I'm mixing 3 different pairs of headphones, whatever I have, one pair of like pods on the phone as well too. How does it sound on the phone? How does it sound on a laptop? How does it sound on my best headphones? How does it sound on my shittiest headphones? So when I'm listening to anyone else's music, I'm far more chilled out. You know what I mean? And I enjoy that. I enjoy that process of kind of, what do I carry on the road? It's like a pair of noise cancelling Bose. What are they called? Quiet Comfort 35s or something like that, or 35.2s, or I don't know. They're a fine pair of headphones, but I'm far less picky when it comes to just enjoying people's work. Yeah.
Well, Andrew, thank you once again for coming in. Guys, one more round of applause for Hozier.
Pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.